Hey everybody, how's everybody doing today? Welcome to my photo editing live stream where you can submit your images before the stream starts and I edit them here for you live using DxO Photolab. We're up to 9.5 now. And you know, the process here is basically I want to show you the tools and the editing workflow that I use for Photolab just for educational purposes. I'm not critiquing the images or passing any judgment in any way. It's simply to show off the tools and how to use them. And every 2 or 3 images, I like to stop and look at the chat section and answer any questions you might have of any of the things that I did or anything else related to Photolab. So I'll do my best to answer your questions. And also, if you're new to DxO or Photolab, you can use my affiliate links down below to download and get a 15 or 30-day free trial, whatever it is. So you can follow along and see if it's the right tool for you to edit your photos. It is, of course, my favorite photo editing software, and that's why I do these every week, because I want to be there for people that may have purchased it already as well, to help them, with Photolab in any way I can. So that said, good to see everyone here. I see Dan is here and Bamsem is here. Hopefully the audio video is good. So I will go ahead and make some adjustments here. And we'll get to the editing. So I have 7 or 8 images today. There it is. There we go. Okay, now we're ready. All right. Oh, hi, Heather. How are you? Good to see you. And thank you, Dan, for the audio video updates, and Heather as well. And we'll start here. Looks like we have something here from William to start with. Wow, you must have been really close. 300 millimeters and you filled the frame. That's pretty awesome. All right, so what I like to do in terms of workflow is I always apply a basic preset first that I've tweaked a little bit, but it's basically optical corrections and denoising. Those are the core DxO technologies that they have, and I think they produce the best results of any photo editing software I have out there. So I will go ahead and just apply that. And then the next thing I do is I kind of look at the overall composition. If I need to do any perspective corrections, horizons, straighten horizons, or try to balance the image in terms of light and color and subject matter. And then I also look at exposure and white balance. So these are kind of global changes I like to look at first when I start editing. And in this image here, we filled the frame. Exposure looks good. So I don't think there's much I need to do. And the white balance is fine. Maybe it's a little bit cool. Just a hair, maybe 100 or 200 Kelvin. But I think all I have to do is a little bit of local brightening and maybe darken the background just a little bit so the bird stands out, and then just peak a little bit on the saturation and we're done. So with birds, I always like to do eyes, beaks, and talons. And in this case, we just have the eyes and the beak. So we'll start there with some local adjustments. And I like to just use control points for a lot of my local adjustments. I know there's AI tools as well, but they're not really necessary most of the time. But let's see if we can get the pupil I'll try and spread this out just a bit, just to brighten the whole area around the eye. And I can tighten this up a little bit there with the Luma slider. And then eyes, I always do clear view and shadows and micro contrast, just to kind of bring that out. So I'm going to back that off. I think that's pretty good. Wish I could bring out a little more of the color. In the pupil, because there's just a hair bit of brown in here. But I think we're yeah, well, I'm just trying to find the brownest part of the pupil. Okay, and then let me just tighten up the chroma just a tad. See if I can push that a little bit more. It's a little hard to bring out. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to add a little warmth to it. And as a rule of thumb, anytime I add any brightening to the image, I always like to add a little bit of warmth to the area that I brightened. I think that's the best we can do there. I may have to come back to it because it's there we go. Okay, let's do the beak. So I'll add a new control point. Actually, for the beak, I can probably just use the auto masking brush. Something like that. And we'll do the same thing, just a little bit of brightening and clear view and some micro contrast. Okay, I think what I'll do next is, since it's very soft around the edges, because of the shallow depth of field, it's going to be a little tough to bring in or darken the background. I'm going to see if the AI tool can feather a little bit. So we'll make a new mask. And it's kind of okay. I wish there were some feathering tools for the masking here for AI, but that's okay. Let's just brighten the bird just a tiny bit, about a third of a stop. Be one more. Okay. Actually, let me go up a full stop, and then I'm going to go to the overall global exposure and just pull that back. Let's go back about 2/3 of a stop. Go back to the bird. We'll add another third here. Go back here, and I'm just trying to make the background a little bit darker. I think that's about all I can do because I'm just getting a little bit of haloing here. So I don't know if you can see it, but you can see just a little bit of haloing here around the bird. So I'm going to try and feather that a bit, but I have to do it manually. So I'm going to go in here and create a submask and use the brush tool. We're going to feather that, and let's turn the flow up to about 20%. The opacity. I'm just going to make a large brush, and I'm going to hit the Alt key. Let me hit the Alt key, and then I got to make these adjustments. So let's bring the flow back right around 20. And I'm going to hit the Control key and Alt key at the same time and just make the negative brush bigger while I'm rolling my mouse wheel. And then I'm just going to feather this area up here a little bit. I mean, normally I probably wouldn't bother because it's not that bad, but I just wanted to demonstrate my technique here. Okay. Now I'm going to add a little bit back in this way. Okay, good. And now let's add some global vignetting. So I'll do a new control point. And if you don't have Film Pack installed, this is how I do it. I just use a control point, expand it out around the subject, then I invert it, and then I turn the chroma and luma to 0, and then I can just pull back. Now I could just do exposure, but the way I like to do it is I like to use the selective tones just to make it look a little less vignette-y and a little more natural. Okay, so let's go back to the bird. I think that haloing up here that I saw might actually be natural in the image. So I'm gonna go back to my brush. I'm just gonna brush a little bit more back in here. And if I do show mask, you can see how much feathering. It's very, very subtle. Okay, let's turn off the mask. I think that'll do. Okay. So let me go ahead and just brighten the image back up a little bit more. And then we'll add a little bit of warmth. And I like the light that's kind of right in here. So I'm going to see if I can exaggerate that a little bit. So I'll just use a control point and just come in here and I'll tighten up the color masking. And I'll just start with the highlights and then go down to the shadows. Maybe pull the black in a tiny bit. In my selective tones, I always like to have a straight line that looks the most natural to me. And let's add a little bit of warmth to that again because I added some light. I'll just add about 500 Kelvin. Okay, and I think that's it. So sometimes with birding, I like to just go in and check the fine detail with the loop tool. So let me go back to the detail panel. See if I can just crank that up just a little bit. Yeah, there we go. Crank that up. That looks good. Maybe a little unsharp mask. No, I don't think we need it. It'll get too crispy. All right, good. So overall the exposure, I think maybe a little more light up here. So I'm just going to get a very, very small brush. Let's make a new mask. And my flow is still very low. Let's just add a little bit up here. And just a little bit of warmth there. Okay. All right, I think that's it. So I'm going to export this. And we'll go to the original image folder, no resizing, sRGB, preserve color details. So these are the settings you want to use when you export to JPEG, especially if you're going to share this like online, because 99.9% I think of the online monitors and phones and everything all use sRGB color space. All right, we'll export that. I may have overdone it with the brightening. That's okay. Let's check the progress here. Still going. So the first one always takes, about 20 to 30 seconds. But after that, the processing for my machine runs down to easily under 10 seconds, usually like 6 to 8 seconds per image. So I'll go ahead and reset that. We'll set this as the reference, and then we'll compare it against this one. Another way I can do this, instead of creating a reference, I can just go up here and select compare to the output, which is right here. Okay, F9 key to move the panels to the side. I'll just move the film strip at the bottom. So there's the before and after. I think that came out pretty nice. It's a little bit bright, but it's okay. I like it. And I can, since I didn't do any cropping or anything, we can go directly to a split view and just look at the fine details. Yeah, that came out really amazing. Okay. I see Mark had a quick question. Would you use a different export setting for printing? Well, I guess probably not. It would depend on the printer. If you're sending it out, they may have specific requirements in terms of color space. But no, I would just use the same settings and then print it. But usually, if I'm going to print, I print directly from Photolab. Okay, let's go to the next one. And we'll customize. Oops. Another thing I have to watch out for is you see this little green arrow down here? That means the optics module needs to be downloaded. So let me do that real quick. Wow, an EM10 Mark II with a 12 to 45 Pro. Awesome. Okay, so let's go ahead and customize this. And I'm going to apply basic preset first. Okay, so you see that was an easy one. You can see how it kind of corrected the distortion, but it's doing a lot of things in that one little preset. So I'm looking at the exposure is fine, the white balance is fine. It's the overall composition here, and what story am I trying to tell? This looks like maybe a public park of some kind on a busy day. There's people down here in the water. Some guys chilling. I like this scene right here. This has a nice symmetry and geometry to it. So I'm leaning towards getting rid of this right side and just cropping in somewhere over here. So I think I always like to do any kind of cropping and geometry before I do any editing. Maybe I always watch my corners in the crop. I don't know. See if I can balance this. The problem is right down in here. So when I'm composing a shot, you know, on the site, you know, I'm very conscious of my corners. It looks like you did want to include this right side, but it just doesn't go with the rest of the, other than showing that people are going in this direction. So maybe I'll lose those people and just focus on this line here. Just wish I could keep. Let's see how that looks. No. Be a little tighter. Nope. It's just way too much space up here. Okay. I'm sorry. It's taken me a while to get the composition the way I want it. I forgot to mention, I always edit these photos as if they were my own. So again, I'm not being critical of anything here. I really like all the little stories everywhere in this image. You know, going on. The line of people going across the bridge, the people down here, this couple over here, and this line. Gosh, there's so many things going on here. And this is about the only composition that seems to maintain that. The landscape in the bottom and this building on the right are just irrelevant to me. I'm just not getting. Okay, I'm gonna go with this. So what I need to do here is, it's a little bit top heavy or bottom heavy. You know, the top and the bottom are out of balance for me. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try and brighten up this area, darken this area back here. I don't know, let me just do a quick, I'm just going to do a quick look at what happens if I darken this. Or if I make it brighter. Yeah, I think it has to be darker. Okay, so we'll come back to that. So I don't know if the AI tool can grab some of this house. I'm gonna hit the Shift key and just include both of these in the same mask. Get a little bit in here. There's some houses in there, and let's just brighten those up a tiny bit. I'm gonna add some warmth. Okay. Now let's go back to, let's make a new mask. And we're gonna make a very gradual control line. And just kind of darken. So maybe use a little tighter chroma mask. And let's start with the blacks. Okay. And I make a little stronger one here using the same idea, but a little bit tighter. We'll make this darker. In this case, I'm going to back it off a little bit. Okay. Okay, I'm going to darken the image globally. And then we're going to just add some light back in. So about 1/3 of a stop. And I'll just use a very, very light brush. So flow, let's drop the opacity down to 2, just in case. I don't want to overdo it. Just add a little bit of light here and there. We'll just do a little bit of a push here and add some warmth. Okay. A little bit there. Okay. I get a new brush. I'm just going to just brush in here a bit. Okay. We're almost there. Now let me bring this brightness back up. Let's see, so let me just do color picker on the white balance. I'm not really getting anywhere with that. Just want it to be a little warmer and a little less green. Okay, let me just do a quick comparison with the geometry. Okay. So I'm using this brush. I need this part to be a little bit darker. A little bit more light in here. Let's put my opacity back up. Okay, so let's accent the picture. There's a little bit of yellow here, red here, and some kind of blues. So I'm going to go over to the color, and let's just push the reds a bit. And the blues, let me spread the blue out just a tiny bit. And then that's more of an orangey color, so let's do that, but we'll spread it just a tiny bit. Okay. All right, one last thing I want to do. Let's get the brush again, new brush. This bridge, I should probably just use the AI tool. Let me try that. There we go. I want to bring out the texture in the rocks. And some of the oranges and yeah, just the oranges out a little bit. Okay. All right, I'm going to call it there. Let's export that. And we'll do a quick comparison. So here's the original on the right, and this is my edit here on the left. So yeah, my image is a lot warmer and more contrast, right, between the highlights and the shadows. But I think now you can see how this side really feels so heavy on the right side. And I saw Mark Leonard talked about maybe healing out this part or erasing. I could try a little bit, like in small sections, but it wouldn't have given me enough, I think, to kind of come all the way to this side, because I have to cut somewhere about here on this line. Possibly. possibly I could have cut out just this section. But anyhow, I think I got where I needed to go for the most part. But there's the fully edited image. There's the original. And I think now at least you're more focused on the people down here. Because, and the reason I say that is because when you go up here, honestly, there's not a lot to look at. I mean, this house is interesting, but the landscape is just kind of faded off to the back. So I didn't see any reason to really include that. So that's why I made it darker. All right, very good. That's from Hans, very nice. Okay, and this one says, from Rob Allen, says, I'm not sharp, edit me please. Okay, so yeah, I can see that. So let's download the optics module. And now we have a Pen F. Man, you guys are really bringing out the classics here. And putting into lenses that didn't exist when these cameras came out. Okay, so that helped a little bit. Let's go ahead and apply a basic preset. And let's go ahead and edit this. So we're going to do a crop. I think a square crop will be fine for this. We'll come in about there. And I don't overthink it. I just try to use rule of thirds. Something like this. Okay, good. So it is a little bit out of focus because it looks like the camera focused on this this part of the wood grain and not the bird. So what we need to do, and the pen, you know, the only way to fix that is on the Pen F. You know, you can go down to a single point, but it's tough to do if you're in a rush. But good settings otherwise. I like the settings that you used. So let's go, you know, so I'm thinking vignette a little bit around the edges and brightening here a little bit in the center. Now we can't brighten too much because the bird has a nice white patch of feathers, but we can bring up the shadows a tiny bit. So what I might do, let's see the AI mask. We'll grab the bird and we'll just actually darken him a bit. And then globally, let's brighten the image. Maybe a little push in the shadows. Okay. Right about there. I'm going to add some warmth, some micro contrast, a little bit of clear view. And let's make a new mask. Let's see if I can shine a little bit of light in here. Ooh, that flow is pretty high. Hold on, let me do a new one. A little bit of warmth. Sorry, my mouse jumped a little bit. There we go. All right, let's look at the bird. Because the bird's out of focus, it's not going to help to really do eyes and beaks and everything. Just do a little bit. Maybe an auto masking brush for the beak. Okay. All right. Let me add a vignette around the subject. So we'll invert this, move these to 0. Might have to brush a little bit. Some of this, it's a little bit too strong. Okay. Go back to my control point. Let's cool that off a bit. Ooh, no, that doesn't look good. Okay. Almost there. And all right, now let's try and see if we can get any detail back. Let me get my loop tool. All right, so it's a little bit soft. So let's try. Let's go to the detail panel and let's just try intensity and details. Now go back to the local panel. And down here at the bottom of the local adjustments, there you can amplify the sharpening just on that one area even more. Okay, and I think the bird needs just a little bit of vibrancy as well. Particularly maybe the blues. I'll stretch that out a bit. Okay. Let me look at the loop. I mean, it's a little bit pasty, but I don't think that can be helped because it is out of focus just a bit. But we'll try and again in the local adjustments panel, I can adjust locally the deep prime settings. Okay. All right, and I think the bird needs to be a little bit warmer. All right, let's try that. Okay, so this is the original on the right. And there's my edit So I cropped in because we don't need to see, you know, this background here. We don't really need any of this over here. It's really just right in here is all we need. And I think I brought some of the detail back. Let's just punch in best we can. I think that's about the best I can do, pending any kind of AI, you know, sharpening, right, that you might get with Topaz. But DxO did a pretty good job here overall in trying to extract whatever detail there was, you know, from the denoising and stuff. Because this is an ISO 6400, as you can see, there's a lot of noise over here as well. But it did a fabulous job on the tree bark that was in focus, right? So, but I think if you look at this from just a normal view, I think it looks a lot better compared to this. This definitely looks like it's almost in focus if you don't look too closely. It looks like you nailed focus. Okay. Let's see. What is that? Yeah, that's my edit. All right, one here from Paul. Okay, we got the eyes in focus here. And I don't need an optics module, so we'll go ahead and apply a preset. And just go in and customize. And ooh, we're at ISO 12,000. Man, it must have been pretty dark there. So maybe get rid of this pole. So let's see if a square crop will do it. Not quite. A 5x4. Almost. I want to be about right there. Trying to avoid this blue area. Maybe I'll use a little brush and fix that. But it's still not quite centered. I'm just centering these two lines here between the eyes. So what I might have to do, I might have to use a little brush just to hide that blue area. Okay. All right. I did apply the preset. Let's just crank up the sharpening a bit because it's a little bit, just a hair. I think you might have been shooting through some glass this time. It doesn't look like a direct shot from this lens. I mean, even though the ISO is high, it just doesn't have sort of that pop to it that I would normally expect from this lens. Okay, that's good. And then let's add some warmth. So, you know, again, white balance, composition, exposure, right? So white balance, just a little bit more. Okay, good. Now let's go to some local adjustments. So we'll get in here around the eyes. Let's bring those out like about so. Give it some clear view and some micro contrast. And the eyes look a little green, but I think they're yellow. I'm going to add a little warmth. Maybe back there. Okay. And we'll really crank up the clear view here and micro contrast. Okay, good. Maybe a little bit tighter on the luma or chroma right there. Okay, so for animals, you know, it's the eyes, the nose, the teeth, the feet, but we don't have that. The ears, we don't have ears. So those are the things I like to look at. Just the key features, facial features, eyes, nose, mouth, ears, and feet. And if it's people, same thing, but just instead of feet, you know, I would probably do their hands. But okay, that looks pretty good. Let's try a control line, because there is some light coming in. Well, again, we'll just do this kind of in a gradual. And let's just add a little bit of light to the right side. Maybe a little bit more here too. I'm going to do a little tighter chroma mask, or I'm sorry, luminosity mask. I'm going to add a tiny bit of warmth. This one might be overdoing it. Yeah, let me get rid of this one. This one is, I might just use a brush. I just want a little more light right along here. And a little warmth. Okay. We'll do the same thing for the nose. Maybe I'll just use the same brush. Let me see. Just go over it a couple of times. No, I'm going to need another brush. So I want to amp up the color a little bit. Need a little vibrancy here. Okay, do the same thing on the tongue. And the teeth might need a little more. Teeth might actually need some cooling off. Let me check my mask. The nose is part of that, so let me make a new brush. Let's desaturate the teeth a tiny bit. Maybe cool it off a tiny bit. And push the highlights. Let's go to the midtones. A little bit in the shadow. And I do this a lot with portraits. on teeth is I like to desaturate the teeth a little bit, or desaturate the yellow. If I want to be a little bit more specific. Okay, let me see the tongue. No, let's do a different one for the tongue. Okay, we'll start with the highlights, midtones, tiny bit in the shadow. A little bit extra right here. Okay, and some clear view. A little bit of warmth. Maybe pull off the magenta a tiny bit. Okay. All right, so almost there. Where's my fur brush? This one. Let me back this off 10%. I just want a little bit more light on this left side. And then maybe a little bit of shadow on the right side. So I'll make a new brush. Let's pull the opacity back. And I'm just kind of painting around with this brush. Just to make it more shadowy on this side. This eye is too bright. Maybe I need to make a smaller control point. Okay. Go back to my brush number 3, right? Okay. Almost there. Okay, now let me see if I can let's do a repair right here. A little bit more. Okay, good. All right, I think globally, just a little bit of clear view. Let's try some contrast. A little push to the blacks here. Hold on. Not getting quite the effect that I want. I want something like this. Go back to the local. I need the tongue. This brush. And we'll pull back the vibrancy. Just need a little push here. Be a little less clear view. Okay. Now let me go back to the global. I need to fix the nose. Let me make a new brush. I need a little more contrast here. And a touch of vibrancy. All right. Just add a tad of exposure. Look at my crop. It feels a little bit off. Okay, now let's just check some of the details because we are at ISO 12,000. I think we're okay. It's a little bit pasty here. So let me go to the detail panel. Let's just back off this intensity a bit. No, let's go up a little bit. And okay. A little unsharp mask. I think this, oops, this top part, the eyelashes. Yeah, that looks okay. All right, let's export that. Oh, let me double check the eye. This eye over here. Yeah, that's good. I'd like a little more darker down here. Let me do that real quick. So I had a brush for darkening. I almost was thinking maybe go completely black down here. Let's see what happens. Okay. All right, I'm going to end it there. I'll be here all day messing with that. So let's overwrite that previous edit. And we'll do a comparison. Reset that. Okay, so yeah, I think that came out pretty nice. It's kind of like what Lee Hoy was saying during the stream. You know, when he was here last week, you know, it's like half in the field, half in post-processing, right? And I think this is a good example where I did a lot of work here in post-processing to dramatically make a change to this image. I think the biggest change really is just, you know, spreading the light, adding the light to the left side here to make it look a little more directional. I always like to do that because if you look at this side, the illumination here and over here are roughly the same because the light's coming down from the top. So I just sort of exaggerated, you know, the lighting on the left side to make it look like it's coming more from the left. And if we try to compare the fine details, you know, 12,000 ISO, I think it did a good job. I think it did a good job. There's something. Were you shooting through some glass or something? I mean, I'm not sure, but it may be hard to tell in a stream, but it just feels like the lens is just a tiny bit soft than I would expect. Maybe there was some humidity or something too. But yeah, that looks really good overall. And then on the right side, let's see. Yeah, a lot better. And then of course this blue is really distracting. Okay, let's go to the next one. Oh, so yeah, shot through glass. It's 3 meters away. Yeah, you were close. You were close. All right, so we got one here from Jeff. Wow, I love that. You know, I don't think we have this particular breed of kingfisher where I live. Let's go ahead and edit this one. My preset. And I'm going to crop in. I'm debating. Really good job on the composition, though. I bet you wish you had your teleconverter with you, though, right? And again, I try not to overthink it. I just go rule of thirds. Maybe front and center is good. No, I think a little bit. I don't know. I'm debating. I kind of like this composition. And I'm going to tilt them a bit. Maybe a little bit more. a little dragonfly back there too. Kind of like that composition, just something a little different than what I usually do. So I do need to darken the background. So let's go to local adjustments. I think the AI tool will do a really good job here. So let me invert that one. Oh, what did I do wrong? I can't do that. The masks are overlapping. Okay, there we go. Maybe let's go down about one stop. And then we'll just add a little bit more here. Just about that much. I'm going to globally just brighten a tiny bit. Okay, let's work on the bird itself. So we're going to go right in here. Push the shadows. Some clear view. Micro contrast. Okay. Okay. And then let's do another auto masking brush for the beak. And let's just pull the highlights, some clear view, and a little bit of shadow. Micro contrast. Okay. And then let's just brush in I need a control point. Let's just add a little bit of light to the front. So we'll do a tighter chroma mask. One up here. And we'll just add a little bit of light there. A little bit of warmth. Let's try a little more light. A little more warmth. Okay. All right, let me back out and see a little bit. That looks pretty good. Okay, let me make a new control point. This shadow area just needs a little bit of push and some contrast. All right, let's use a control line and just maybe darken from this side to about there. Make it a little smoother. So I don't want to do a vignette on this one. I just want to cool that off a bit. Because if the light's coming in from the top right, I'm thinking the bottom right will be a little bit cooler, and then I want to make it a little warmer on the left side here. So do another control point, and let's select with the eyedropper the more yellow tones. Maybe this is kind of yellow. Now I think right about here. Okay. A little tighter on the chroma. And let's just brighten that up a bit. Maybe a little tighter on the luma as well. And add a little warmth. Maybe not that much. About 500. Okay. And just create a little more contrast in here. Okay. All right, let's use the loop tool and check some of the fine details. Go over here. Actually, since I'd selected that bird with the AI tool, I can just, oh, I did not. Oh, there it is. Let's go down here and just use the sliders for that mask. Crank up the detail. Maybe pull the luminance back just a tiny bit because we're at a really low ISO. The luminance noise reduction. Maybe crank up the lens sharpness. I'm waiting for this full preview down here. Okay. That's a little crispy. Let me just back it off about 25. And let's do just a little bit here. Okay. Whoops. What are we at, 19? I want to be at about 10. All right, that looks good to me. Let me just eyeball it real quick. Sometimes I like to just zoom it all the way out so that I can see the overall lighting. It's a little bit of a hot spot right here. So let me go back to, that's one of the last things I did, right? Maybe I need to, I like the effect that this had that I was doing. Just need a little brush, make a new mask. Just, not a brush, let's do a control point. Actually, let me go back to the brush. I need to do a couple of things and then we're done. So I'm gonna just brush in here and just pull it down. And I'm gonna darken the bottom of this stick a little bit too. Okay, a little bit too much. Okay. And then one more brush. Just along the top. Not this part. Let's add a little warmth first. And then we'll push the highlights a bit. Ooh, my computer's slowing down for some reason. Okay. Need more warmth. All right, there we go. And just back off the highlights a little bit. Okay. Ooh, my computer's really slow. The previews are taking too long. Okay, we'll back off the warmth. There we go. A little less green. All right, we'll call it here. So we'll export. All looks good here. Oh, that exported. All right. Okay, so here's the original on the right. It's a pretty wide, frame, right? So I just cropped in and just highlighted, the light coming in from the top right, added a little bit to the stick, and then darkened the background overall, but not evenly, right? I made this side darker, this side a little bit brighter. I think that makes for just a more dynamic scene overall. And then let's just punch in and see how we did on the details. Yeah, very nice. Much better, because it's a little bit soft here. But now it's nice and crispy here, all along the branch, all the way up to the bird. Looks pretty good. Okay. Yeah, that looks really good, and I think natural. All right, let's do the next one. And thank you, Jeff. I'm glad you like that one. Okay. This one's from Heather. So let's start with a basic preset. And yeah, I think I have the optics module installed, so we're good there. Let's go ahead and customize this. So it's a little bit hot here. Interesting you went to F14. You really wanted a starburst, huh? That's what, Heather, that's why I bought these starburst filters. It's because, a lot of times there's some really great speculars at nighttime, and you don't want to stop down to F14 just because you want a starburst. So I just use the starburst filters. That's just what I do. Because then you could have probably got this same shot like at ISO 200 or whatever. Well, look at your shutter speed, 1.3 seconds. Wow. Yeah, you could have been, I assume you're on a tripod, unless you can hand hold. That's doable. But anyway, that's enough about the shooting tips. Let's see. I think this is a little bit hot here. Because there's the problem I have with the light here is you can't see the motivation for the light, meaning, where's the lamp that's causing this to be so bright here? Because you have this really bright light source here in the background, so that it just looks a little bit off to me. Like right in here looks a little more natural because the light's kind of hitting the top of this boat. But this one, it's not hitting the top so much, and you got this really strong light source hitting the boat. But anyway, so I'm gonna darken this, make the water a little bit glossy, see if I can bring out some of the stars. The composition's okay. It's pretty tight because we want to keep this somewhat, but I can probably do a square or 5x4. Maybe a square. Okay. So we're going to put that light right in the corner. That doesn't quite work. If we do that much. Okay, I think I'll go with that. Let's get the water nice and glossy. I just like to use clear view, maybe a little micro contrast. I'll just pull the blacks in just a tiny bit. Then let's select the boat and temper the highlights on this a bit. So I'm going to do shift and shift. This one too. Shift here, shift here. And let's just do a linear pull. And I'm thinking let's do a control line. I'm gonna just darken this area in here. Let's do a little tighter chroma, a little tighter luma. Then yeah, that green, I gotta fix that green. This green line here. Let me cool this area off a bit. Okay. Let's make a new control point in here. I'm just going to add a little warmth. Because we have this really warm light here, so I'm just kind of just add a little warmth to that side of the image. Okay. Let me fix this green thing before I forget. Maybe the AI tool can get it. Yeah. This. All right. This is a little bit too bright. Okay. Go back to this control point. Let's back off the chroma. Because I want that warm light to affect everything. So we have this nice cool light from the moon. So, and it's reflecting down here. So I want the left side to be a little bit cooler. So that's why I created this control line. Let me try and get that a little cooler maybe. Maybe push the highlights a bit. Oh, no. Got a little bit shorter. Okay. And just add a tiny bit of warmth over here. So let's do a control point. Maybe just a little bit of light. Okay, and then let's balance. I might be able to use the same control point here. Let me see. No, I'm gonna make a new one. I just want to show these houses off back here a little bit. Okay. Let's see how the denoising's going. For the 25,000 ISO, it gets really pasty. Let's use that as a reference for sharpening and stuff. So detail. Okay, now let's look at the stars. There's a couple of stars. All right. So let's go into the sky. Let's do a local adjustment here. Maybe a control point. Yeah, I'm sorry, an AI tool. Just select the sky. I'm just going to do some micro contrast here just to bring the stars out a little bit. See how that did. It's bringing out the noise too, though. So I'm going to increase the micro contrast and then go down here and see if I can add some more noise reduction. Okay. Let's see what we did to the moon. Moon looks okay. I'm just doing before and after, just quickly before I export. I just want to see if there's anything else I want to do. I think I'll go over here. Some clear view and some regular contrast. Okay, let me check the sky one more time. Let's go back here to the sky mask. Add a little bit more denoising. Okay. Let's export that. Hopefully that's not jacked up too much. Okay. I think that looks okay. Now this let me just expand it out. You know, this boat being lit up so much, I just needed to use this light as the motivating light and eliminate the light that we can't see that's standing up somewhere over here. But I think this looks a little more natural. Maybe we can do a slider. Yeah. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And then we can check the fine detail. Yeah, we cleaned up that noise pretty nice here. Or not we, I should say DxO. We can now see all the little, you know, how dirty this boat is. It really brought out, look at that, all of the sort of this dirt all around really nicely, even at ISO 25,000. Now looking at this side, I could probably do a little better noise reduction in this area. I would have to select it, you know, and pinpoint it, kind of like I did with the sky, where I just denoised the sky a little bit more than everywhere else. But I wanted to make sure that we could see the stars that were over here. So I think, yeah, that came out pretty good. Okay, so let's go to let's go back to my folder and see if anything else came in, because I think that was the last one. Yep. So I know Paul, I think I saw Paul said you uploaded something. Let me see. Give me a second. Okay, so we have Shakabe and John follows. I can do 2 more. I got some time. So let me download these. Where's my download button? Okay, here we go. Download to, I guess, this folder. No, this folder. Okay, there we go. Save. Download. Save. Download. Save, and then the last one here. So we'll look at Paul's edit, and then I'll edit Shakabe and John. All right, I think they're all here now. So create a reference. All right, so yeah, Paul, this is Paul's edit. This is the first time our edits are really different. I like what you did though. You got rid of the blue and turned that to green. But yeah, our edits are very different. The same ideas though. We brought up, you know, the shadow area down here. Oops, I'm sorry, you guys can't see what I'm doing. Okay, so this is Paul's edit on the right. So yeah, like I said, the green area, this blue area got converted to green. And then everything else is very similar. Lit up the eyes, lit up the mouth, the nose. And the only thing you did not do is, like I did, created this, you know, light to dark from the top right to the bottom right. But if you were to re-edit this just ever so slightly, right? Just do a gradient on this side, and or not a gradient, but a control line gradient. Our edits would be very similar again. Okay, let's do. You didn't crop anywhere near as much. I just cropped out the entire green and blue. Okay, where's my button? There we go. And you turn the eyes blue-green. Okay, got it. I see. Yeah, I think I went a little warmer. But anyway, it's always interesting to see what you guys do a little differently, right? Let's go to the Shakabe's edit here. All right. So we need just a little bit of sorry. We just need some clear view, darker water, temper the highlights a little bit and we're done. I like these reflections. So let's apply a basic preset. Oops, I'm sorry. There we go. All right, now I'm ready. So we got the preset in. Let's add some global clear view. Just across the board, it needs some in contrast. I normally don't do that. I normally do all local adjustments. I rarely work in this panel for the entire image, but it's such a beautiful scene. And white balance, let's just do the dropper here. There we go. And I'm going to back it off just a little bit. Okay, there we go. And then a control line for the water on this side. We're going to keep the dropper here in the darker areas and just tighten up the luma a tiny bit. And just add some clear view and just make it darker. Maybe push the speculars a bit. Some micro contrast. Regular contrast. No. Yeah, micro contrast. Maybe cool it off a bit too. Just a little. And then the background, another control line. So make a new mask and a control line, and we'll stay in this greenish area. Let's tighten up the chroma this time and the luminosity. I might have to erase a little bit off the goose, but I just want to pull. Let's just try regular contrast. Yeah, I'm gonna have to push a little bit. Let's make that a little bit cooler maybe. Okay, I'm gonna show my mask. I'm gonna erase a little bit here. Let's see if I create a submask and use a brush. Hit the Alt key and see if I can, yeah, I can erase a little bit in here. All right, good. Now, there's very little hope of recovering that eye, but we'll try. So let's try another control point. Where is the eye? This is the eye. Okay. Let's just come in here. Whoops, turn off the mask. Okay. Some clear view, micro contrast. Maybe we'll spread this out a bit. And let's use a auto masking brush. We'll do a little bit on the beak. I think it just needs some vibrancy. Maybe a little extra push in the reds. I'll spread that a bit. Okay. Go back to this. This doesn't look right. Tighter on the chroma and luma maybe. Yeah. And we'll just continue this down a little bit in here. Just a little bit of a push. Some micro contrast. Okay. Because originally I was trying to do this for the eye, but the eye is, there's no point trying to bring that back. Okay, let's do a new control point here. Just make this a little warmer. Maybe new mask. That, yeah, the control point would have to be too big. I don't know if AI would select just this part. I wonder if I use the rectangle. Yeah, there we go. Let's just warm that side up a little bit. Give it a little micro contrast, a little more warmth, a little push in the shadows and midtones. Okay, now let's work on the ducklings. I think some small control points will do. Don't need much in here. Just a little push. Like that. Some micro contrast. Maybe a tiny bit of warmth. About 500. Okay. Come back to this brush. Now this control line. Just make it a little, I don't know, maybe brighter. Right about there. We'll leave the white balance alone. Make it a little warmer actually. Okay. And I don't know, I should have cropped this first, but since I didn't have to change the geometry overall, I think 16 by 9 and come back over here. That's a little tight. Maybe a 3 by 2. I need something else. something is just a little bit off. It's definitely the color. Let me try different. Maybe that's a little better. So portrait 1 versus vivid. Yeah, I think portrait 1 looks about right. Let me just back off the white balance a little bit. Well, what if we go crazy? Okay. I'm still not happy here. Oops. Something is just not quite right for me here. Part of it's the color, but part of it's this composition. Okay, that's a little better. All right, let's export that. Okay, so my thought process here, I tried to, kind of guide you along the way, but in terms of the composition, I think it's really about this goose looking directly at the chicks, right? So I just wanted to crop all the way in, so that was the only thing, because this leg sticking out is a little distracting to me. It does kind of give you this aura of how gentle the mother goose is being, or swan, I should say. But yeah, it was just too much. So that's why I wanted to come in a little bit tighter here. And it also feels like maybe you weren't using a lens hood or something, because you're getting some flaring here. What lens is this? This is, oh, the 75 to 300. So I feel like maybe you weren't using a lens. This lens, I got a really long lens hood for my lens, for this particular lens, the 75 to 300. Because when you shoot directly, if you got the sun kind of coming in at an angle like this, it looks like it was pretty high up based on the way the shadows are, right? It's almost coming straight down, but a little bit from behind. And if you don't have a lens hood on, that's why this image is just a little bit soft, a little bit of flaring, or not flaring, but ghosting. I don't know what you call this, but loss of contrast, right? It was kind of lost here. So I brought it back best I could with clear view, but ultimately, you want to, okay, now I see the problem with the color. While I was looking at this, come to think of it, the white balance down here, I didn't shift it together with this one. I only did up here. I didn't do down here. I'm sorry, I just caught that while I was looking at it. Something was definitely off. And that's what it is. But anyway, getting back to, so I would have to go back and edit and make this part a little bit warmer. But other than that, I think this is the edit I would go with, the final edit with the crop and everything. And we can try and compare some details here, because these little chicks down here are really cool. But yeah, DxO, DxO is so good at bringing in the details of any lens and camera combination. I think it just looks really amazing. Now I over-processed up here a little bit, and your focus point was definitely on the chicks, because you can see there's a little bit of depth of field, right? It is shallower here. So I was able to bring it back somewhat. And if I worked on it some more, I can make it a little bit more, but it's not important. Ultimately, it's about the feeling you get from this image and what's going on. All right, very good. And we can compare this to, if I make, because Shakib sent his edit in, so make that the reference. And we'll compare that against, where's my edit? Here's my edit. So there's Shakib's edit on the left, and that's mine on the right. So yeah, I went heavily into warming up the scene and getting rid of that slight, contrast, really cranking up the contrast, maybe too much. This image might be better just leaving it a little bit soft, but using a soft focus, like instead of sharpening, unsharpen it some, right? Just to give a little bit more ambiance to the scene. And I think that's where Shakib kind of kept his edit, was more on the softer side to keep that sort of softer ambience of the mother swan here. But okay, very nice. Let's see, one more from John. Here it is. Okay, so we have a landscape. Let's see if I need an optics module. Nope. So we'll apply basic preset. And I've seen enough snow for the year. I don't mean photo-wise, but here at home. It was brutal, man. That snow was here for 2-3 weeks. It just would not melt. The composition, I think I like the brush down here. These trees, I wish this tree wasn't cut off. This is the most interesting tree, but the brush over here is not very interesting. So let's do a vertical, maybe. Oops. Maybe 5x4, maybe a horizontal's fine. Right in here. And this is one of the few times I'm going to go against what John normally likes, and that's color. I'm going to switch to black and white. And let's see, we have faded. Faded is nice. Balanced, strong. Let's do faded. I like this faded kind of starting point. And I think from here, maybe just add a little texture. Let's try. No, let's back off. Actually, from here, maybe just a just put a little contrast back in, and then let me see. I bet a LUT would look good on here. Where are my LUTs? In here? Yeah, Arctic Embrace. There we go. Let me just eyeball a couple others real quick, but I think that Arctic, oh, I like that. Divine Bliss. I'm going to go with this one or Divine Bliss. Because that's got a little warmer feel to it. I kind of like this one. It gives a little bit older school look, like a more vintage look. Oops, let me compare. Yeah, so let's give it, the exposure needs to be higher. Maybe be a little more selective. Just, you know, the LUT doesn't work well with this, with the edits that I'm doing. Yeah, it's not looking right. Let's back off some of this sharpening and stuff. Maybe give it a little blur. Okay. And let's add one more control point. Or I'm sorry, control line. Let's see, where's my dropper? On darker stuff? Yeah, that's fine. Let's just pull a little bit here. Since this tree is cut off, I'm thinking about, let me look at one other composition. I don't know, I can't do it. I can't do it. That's not bad. 3x2. And just come in just right in here. I like this brush right here. Just trying to balance it. Maybe a little bit more. Okay, I'm going to call it there. Where's my control line? I need to adjust this slightly. Just move it up a little bit. All right, let me export that. Are you kidding me, Eric? Cold and snow. Not at home. I like pictures of cold snow. I don't like to be in it. Okay, we'll wait for that to export. Oops, not quite yet. Okay, so here's the image on the right, the original, and that's my edit. So yeah, the main thing was just this left side. It's a little, this image is still a little out of balance for me. I should crop in a little bit to the right, but I wanted to keep this little tuft of grass right here. So I should probably crop, well anyway, I would work on the composition just a little more, but this is the area, this is the general area I was going for. I just wish that tree was still all the way in the frame and less of this brush over here. I don't like any of this brush. I like this one. I like this line right here. But yeah, I think that came out okay otherwise. Where's, let's do the slider. Yeah. So yeah, that's my final edit from the original versus, you know, this. And then blurring the background a little bit. Just really just to make it a little softer, not so much because I want a depth of field. But okay, awesome. So the image was already pretty monochromatic, John, so that's why I went with black and white. I don't like to do black and white on your photos because I know you prefer color, but I just couldn't help it. It was already pretty monochromatic there. Plenty of megapixels to go at. Yeah, that's true. I didn't even look at the camera or anything. What was that? That was a, oh, a Z8. Nice. God, those things are on sale right now. It's so tempting. And I'm going to the camera store right after this because I got, someone wants to buy an OM3 and another friend, they want to get some new lenses for their Canon. So I was going to go up there and help them, you know, get some deals or make some decisions. But, you know, they have a Z8 there on sale for like $34.99 or something. I think they got a used one there for even less. Oh, I shouldn't do it. The Z8 is such a freaking awesome camera though. But I'm thinking maybe the ZF, right? The 24 megapixel ZF would be nice. Because they got a silver one there. I mean, a lot of people prefer the black, but I like silver cameras. Like the OM3 is silver. They have a silver ZF. That might be enough for me to get interested in that camera again because I didn't care for it in black. And it's on sale, like 300 bucks off. And it's half the price of the frickin' Z8. I don't know. I got too much stuff. Maybe I'll just buy a lens for my Canon. They got some lenses on sale for Canon. I want to get a wide angle for it. But you guys, anyway, we won't talk about gear. We'll talk about the editing. Hopefully you like the editing that I did here, and hopefully you found some new ideas and tips on how to edit your photos. I always do my best for you, and your support is greatly appreciated. So thank you so much for all the coffees and donations and memberships. I know many of you are already members, and I will be back next week. I'll continue to do this every week. You know, because a lot of you, I think, you know, enjoy this kind of stream. At least I like doing them. And I'll be back on Sunday for normal photo chat, and we'll talk about gear on Sunday maybe. But if there's no other questions, we will call it here. So thank you so much for joining me today, and we will see you again soon. Eat healthy, exercise, all that good stuff. Have a good day, a good week, a good life.